Hey everybody, how are you?
Hello.
Some of the previous sessions are just wrapping, so we'll get all of our presenters up on stage. See how it's cleared the room. Excellent.
Can you hear me, Patrick?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent.
How about me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
I was noting earlier that you were the only one that didn't participate in the dry run sessions, but this is also not your only session. So
I have done a few dry runs.
And even though I did a dry run session when I was doing some stuff earlier, I almost forgot everything. I was like, what in the world? I know he showed me this.
Right. Yeah,
It was very helpful though.
It all escapes the brain at some point. It's not this doesn't happen often enough to just enter muscle memory.
So Alex and Vincent, I'll share my slides or my screen. Okay. So Alex, just let me know when you want me to move to the next slide.
Actually, if you wouldn't mind, when you're done, if you could unshare and then I'll share mine, just because there's so many builds in mine that
I see. Okay.
Problematic to, and next step, and next step, and next step.
Well, if you do that, then you can, I guess Vincent only has one slide, so you can share that, you can cover, and then you can pass it on to him for demo.
Yeah, that'll work.
Keeping my eye on the attendee list. I'm just waiting for Chris to show up, and we do technically have 3 minutes to kind of gather everybody.
I have to say, I'm happy we're not going up against Demo Jam. That's some tough competition in this slot before this.
The chat in there was impressive too.
That was entertaining.
Is this the last session?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I had a pretty cool demo until I saw the 3D printer.
We've used that a couple times with the Forester demo, the Forester Wave, just because we think it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
From our results, we've realized that they might not think it's as cool as we think it is.
I was talking to the engineering team just before the sessions started, and for some reason, conversations usually, just lately, the beard is new to me, and so conversations pretty much invariably turn that way. And so the discussion was next year I should combine any of my presentation with Dave Boucher's so that the audience has the opportunity to send Twilio texts to change the color of Philips Hue lights hung in my beard.
That would be good.
It's kind of hard to juggle both PPT and text, so let's see. PPT and the chat, so maybe I'll just, after my session, I'll take a peek at the chat.
Yeah, that's going to be the best way.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye for Chris to show up, but then I'll monitor the chat pretty much throughout, and I'll play it by ear a little bit about, if it would be best to interrupt or if it's a thing that we can kind of save for a kind of Q&A break before bringing some of these things up. Otherwise, I'll answer those in line in the chat itself.
I like Alex's background, right? There's nothing, just plain white wall. We all have stuff.
At the official time, I know that there were a couple of other sessions that were all attended that were just ending. So we'll let people filter in, but I did want to get some of the the moderator announcement type things out of the way and just call everybody's attention over to the chat. Just for any of you who are attending this session new and haven't been to the rest of SaltConf today, to access the individual session chat up at your upper right, there's a chat tab, and then right underneath that there is the session button that will allow you to talk directly in the session chat rather than across the entire event. By all means, if there are any questions or clarifications that are needed as we proceed through this talk, by all means just bring up your questions in that session chat. There are a couple of us available to answer those questions in line in the chat, or we can bring those up audibly for anything that needs to be clarified during the presentation itself. Aside from that, if there's any need to ask any additional questions, you can locate any of us in the attendees list, and there is a method for direct messaging anybody if you have further clarifications or questions that exceed the time of the session itself. So with that, I will introduce Alex Pei, who is Salt's, well, I guess Salt technically doesn't exist anymore, but SaltStack's VP of Product, as well as Rajesh Agrawal and Vincent Riccio. We are also expecting Chris McClanahan. He should be handling a lot of the question and answer stuff in the session chat itself. And with that, I will leave it to you guys.
Great, thank you. Let me share my screen. Let me know what you see, Patrick.
See your PowerPoint.
Okay, better now? In slideshow mode?
It went black, but I don't see. Is there something in the full screen mode right now?
No.
I just see a black screen.
I mean, is that okay, or do you want me to put it on?
That's fine. Size-wise, if you could put it in whatever presentation mode makes you comfortable, but I see the entire PowerPoint window right now.
Okay. Oh, 1 second. All right. Yeah, I don't know why it's showing up as so small. All right. Let's try again once. If I put it in slideshow mode, how's it looking now?
So it just blanked out the whole thing. I think if there's a resolution change, you end up losing a little bit of the video feed there.
1 second. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay, is it any better or not?
That looks good. Yeah, I can see the whole thing.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. So with that, I would like to welcome all SaltStack and VMware customers to this last session. We appreciate your spending your valuable time with us today. I'm Rajesh Agrawal, part of the VMware product management team in Vrealize Automation Group. I also have with me today Alex and Vincent. So guys, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Alex Pei. As Patrick mentioned, I was the SVP of Product and Marketing at SaltStack, and now I'm the Director of SaltStack Products at VMware.
Hey everyone, so my name is Vincent Riccio. I'm a Technical Marketing Manager in the Cloud Management Business Unit focused on automation. Thanks for joining.
Yep, and we are all part of the Cloud Management Business Unit at VMware, which develops and sells software that makes it easy for customers to monitor and manage their infrastructure in private, public, and hybrid clouds. I hope some of you had the opportunity to listen to our leader, Purnima Padmanabhan, who talked about the value that SaltStack brings to Vrealize portfolio. If not, no worries. We are recording all sessions for you and will be available to watch on demand. So in terms of the agenda, in the next 50 to 55 minutes, I and Alex will give you an overview of both Vrealize Automation and SaltStack Enterprise products. And that will be followed by an exciting demo by Vincent, who will show how some of the capabilities of SaltStack can be leveraged by our customers. We won't go too deep into the integration use cases. The goal here is to give you an idea of how SaltStack complements VRA and what use cases can be tackled together. By the way, this is a virtual session, and so feel free to type in your questions in the chat. I think Patrick mentioned that Chris McLennan is moderating the chat, and he will be able to answer your questions in real time. And of course, we will have a few minutes towards the end for Q&A. So even before pandemic hit us all, companies, whether large or small, were going through digital transformation, and COVID only sped up the transformation from digital to the very core of their business models. Companies have been forced to evaluate new ways to generate revenue and focus more on being software-driven rather than hardware. And I know this because firsthand, because I worked at companies like Cisco, Dell EMC, and Honeywell. We have experienced digital transformation. At VMware, we believe that all software needs to run on cloud, whose tenets include self-service, web scale, security, and high availability. Customers want software-defined data centers where capacity is self-optimized, workloads are secure and resilient, and new services can be delivered to consumers in a self-service manner. This is where VMware comes in. The challenge is that there is no single cloud or technology that IT admins have to deal with. To address the potential complexity of building and operating hybrid clouds, our goal is to make cloud invisible so that they can focus more on transforming their business. And automation goes beyond cloud. It's not related just to the need to reduce the operational expenditure by putting their data center on the cloud or gaining productivity and efficiency, but also looking at creating new business models to grow the revenue while being agile to the responsiveness, to the response of the and responsive to the needs of the market. If you look at the overall spectrum of IoT, right, VMware helps IT automate a whole set of operational and technical workflows beyond cloud automation. This encompasses process automation to network automation and everything in between. So, what is VRA? VRA is a modern infrastructure automation platform that enables rapid implementation of powerful self-service hybrid cloud environments. With VRA, the IT architects can configure the building blocks that are used by developers to deploy their applications in cloud. The endpoints where these applications are deployed form a construct in VRA called cloud accounts that are connected to assemble cloud agnostic or cloud-specific templates in a declarative infrastructure as code editor. The cloud-agnostic deployment supports VMware Cloud Templates, Terraform templates, and Kubernetes across private and public clouds. We support APIs for compute, volume, network, load balancer across Azure, AWS, GCP, and vSphere-based environments. VRA also includes a catalog, which is the consumption layer and provides a governance interface. It's a self-service portal for the end users with project-based policies to manage resource access and utilization centrally. It also aggregates native content from third-party platforms such as AWS CloudFormation templates. For customers in their DevOps journey, VRA provides a frustration-free CI/CD experience. Unlike common CI tools, VRA has a combination of out-of-the-box integrations, dashboards, container deployments, and progressive delivery, including automated rollback that makes pipeline modeling and monitoring easier than ever. Customers can also use Vrealize Orchestrator, which is a component within VRA, to automate or customize complex IT processes, or use serverless actions in their favorite scripting language for automation. Now, pretty excited about this SaltStack acquisition. And today, the VRA customers can perform config management via integration with Ansible and Puppet. But with this acquisition, VRA will be able to natively provide this capability for the full stack, including virtual machines, network equipment, and applications, while enabling customers to secure their infrastructure and comply with corporate and regulatory policies. The advantage to the end users is that they will not have to invest in any third-party software, as the capabilities will be available out of the box in VRA. This will also eliminate the need to learn and move between multiple product interfaces. So essentially, it gives power back to the users. Okay, so you may be wondering, where does SaltStack fit in the overall cloud management portfolio? With Vrealize operations, let me actually build this slide. With the Vrealize operations, Vrealize Log Insight and Vrealize Network Insight, customers today can holistically monitor their infrastructure and network, manage costs and capacity, and prepare for DR scenarios. Together with Tanzu observability platform for applications and proactive support based on Skyline, VMware enables consistent operations across multi-cloud. Now, Vrealize complements VMware SDDC with cloud management capabilities, providing an infrastructure as a service layer, provisioning performance, capacity metrics, and log consolidation to create a hybrid cloud that is similar to native public clouds. What SaltStack brings to VRA is the ability to expand general infrastructure automation, security automation, and config management for newly provisioned machines. Our focus predominantly will be on config management, which entails deploying software packages, security patches, and software updates. So if you look at the overall stack, overall VRA stack, we have the catalog, infrastructure as code-based templating, governance, pipelining, and workflow orchestration. Where SaltStack immediately fills the gap is configuration management and ability to fully automate SDDC built on VMC or VCF environments. The current config management capabilities provide third-party products that are centered around applying playbooks or runbooks where when deploying new machines. There's a whole lot more we can do to ensure any drift to the configuration is handled in real time. You can run a script remotely, you can modify a file or service, and deploy a package so that that's when what we are addressing in the first phase of this integration. SaltStack Enterprise is of strategic value to us, and we will be incorporating it into VRA as Vrealize Automation SaltStack Config. It may not be a standalone service, but you will be able to use it as part of your VRA entitlement. SaltStack Enterprise is based on the open source Salt software, which has a strong and awesome community of developers behind it. So another benefit to customers is that some of the work done by the community in creating Salt formulas, modules, and other components could be directly leveraged by the customers in VRA. In the later phases of this integration, we want to apply SaltStack for automating deployment and configuration of SDDCs, as well as expand customer use cases with security operations and network automation. All right, so I talked about the different personas involved in the full spectrum of IT operations. So what can they do with VRA? Now, we offer a prescriptive approach that includes 4 steps, starting from day 0, where you will set up the cloud endpoints and various constructs like cloud zones, network profile, storage profile, compute, etc. Most of the core functionalities lie in deploy step, where users provision infrastructure and migrate workloads from private cloud to multi-clouds in a brownfield environment. VRA supports multi-tenancy, so the providers will be more focused on managing the backend operations, such as overall performance and capacity, optimization of resources, and troubleshooting and resolving issues. The run part is where the consumers deploy applications via pipelines, monitor the performance, and automatically remediate any problems. I'm working with Alex on implementing the config management use case by integrating SaltStack Enterprise Config, and I couldn't be more excited about this opportunity. So now I'll hand over to Alex, and I'll check if there are any questions on the chat. So Alex, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it back to you.
All right, thank you. That was weird. One moment. All right. So one of the challenges that Rajesh and myself and Vincent and Chris had as we started to look at this was we knew that there was going to be a portion of this audience that was going to know VRA very well, and they're really curious about what SaltStack is and what it does. There's going to be another portion of this audience that was very familiar with what SaltStack is and unclear of what VRA is. And so as we go through this, what we're wanting to be able to do is lay that foundation for both products, give you a sense at the base level of what each one does, and then have this demo later that gives you a sense of the art of the possible of where we can go with this great tooling. And Rajesh got into some of that kind of where we're going, plan of record, excitement of how these two products are going together into the future. And what I want to do is take a couple minutes for those of you who are VRA customers or very familiar with VMware products and give you a sense of what SaltStack is in case this is the first time you've really kind of come across that. With that, for sure, I want to make sure that you're asking questions on the chat. We've got a good technical team here that's ready to respond to those questions so that we can keep kind of that lively banter going back and forth. Now, whenever I talk about SaltStack, I like to set the stage with the fact that we are working to build tools for an IT operations team. And the reality is, in the 4 years that I was at SaltStack, this guy here in the middle, and it could have been a woman, it could have been anybody on the operations team, just continued to see that stack of tasks getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and their life getting worse and worse and worse. And we viewed it as our responsibility at SaltStack to provide tools that allowed them to get more control over their infrastructure, over their security, and over their lives to make sure that they kind of reach this IT operations nirvana, if you will. And what we've seen change over the last 4 years is the fact that there's been more and more requests coming at these teams. Before it was very strictly, hey, make sure everything's up and running, don't slow the business down, everything's good. And that has moved into make sure everything moves fast, don't break anything, and make sure everything's compliant. And that just makes this task of the operations team bigger and bigger and bigger. And the reality is that we're seeing more and more companies move to what Forrester would call a strike team, where they're bringing different components of maybe the network team and the security team into the operations center, trying to make sure that things work better and work more easily as communication and collaboration barriers break down. But to make that really work, you need to have a tool that can work across all these different areas as well and ensure that there's a successful outcome of that automation. Now, from a SaltStack standpoint, we've viewed this in 5 different pillars across our platform. First is provisioning. And there was a set of problems that our IT operations and IT admins people would come to us and say, hey, we've got this problem with having to use disparate systems. Everything's slow. Maybe it's that I leave these systems up and running at the end of the cycle and we have runaway cloud costs. I have to configure those, and it's an ad hoc process, and it's painful. And then, of course, I've got to deploy the software, and these things are not repeatable. My DevOps tools aren't integrated. And then there's a long-term day-in factor of this, where I'm trying to make sure that we don't have config drift. There's repetitive tasks, on and on and on. And then more recently, we've had more and more operations teams come to us saying, help us secure this, right? I've been using SaltStack for years. It's helped me in a lot of these security mindset or security workflows. But Salt could do better, could do more by helping have that out of the box. And that's one of the things that we've been working towards. And the reality was, whenever we see these problems from a SaltStack standpoint, we bring three very unique capabilities to bear on these problems. The first one is flexibility. And the best example that we give for that is around our agents, right, around our minions. And with SaltStack, as we compare ourselves to some of our competitors, our view is we want to allow that flexibility for you to make the right choice based off of your company's unique needs, rather than us mandating that you're going to go agentless or mandating that you're going to go agent-based. And so with SaltStack, we always look to make sure that we're flexible. And so as it goes with agents, you can have it agentless. You can use Salt SSH. You can go agent-based and throw the minion out there. Or you can do something like the proxy agent or proxy minion that allows you to have some flexibility for those systems like when BMW was talking earlier with IoT, that may not support a fully installed minion. But the reality is you as the user have the flexibility to choose what you need. The next one is event-driven automation. And so what we understand is that as infrastructures grow in both number of nodes as well as complexity, throwing more humans at the problem is not going to solve this. And so that's where event-driven automation comes into play. Where as these systems, as these devices have something happen, they need to be able to report back and say, hey, there's a problem here. And then SaltStack can provide the reactor that is depicted up here saying, hey, well, I know that this event came in. I have an automation routine that I can kick back off that does some work on the agent and then puts it in the state that we want, right? So you've got the flexibility work across your entire infrastructure. You've now got the event-driven capabilities to listen to and respond to those issues or the things that happen on those machines at scale. And lastly is that scale piece, right? SaltStack, if you were in the demo jam just a minute ago, the last thing that we showed was what we call our million minions demo. And that's just the example of all these things coming together and being brought to bear on true problems in real infrastructures today. And that only happens when you're able to scale to the sizes that your infrastructures are getting to. And SaltStack's able to do that. Now, what that means is that you can then start to answer these questions, right? If you can scale, you know that you're not going to slow things down. If you can respond to breakages in a real-time fashion, things may break, but only for a few milliseconds. And of course, you're able to secure that. And so SaltStack brings together those different paths, those different parts so that you can reach this operations nirvana. And ultimately, of course, we've got an answer for each piece and part of kind of this platform. And this is where things get really exciting from my perspective as we look at this new VMware acquisition. Because both, as you saw from Rajesh's slides, there's a platform there and a lot of different opportunities and solutions. And then there's also that from a SaltStack standpoint. And now we believe that we'll be able to look at this and say, what are our core competencies? What are the pieces of this platform that are most critical that we can share up through kind of the VRA set of suites, as well as continue to maintain this standalone platform for the broad solution across many different devices, many different operating systems, many different environments that may not already be kind of VMware champions, if you will. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is how do we bring all these things together? From a SaltStack enterprise standpoint, it really requires three things. You've got to have an interface that's easy to work with and that's low cost. You've got to be able to consume events, and you've got to be able to have scale. And so we've got a customer example where we talk about, you can start at the bottom if you want, being able to manage 90,000 unique network devices, including modern devices as well as legacy devices. And those are provided or being managed across a variety of different platforms. In some cases, it's just native minions that are run on those devices. Other cases, we're using proxies, and in yet more other cases, they're using this in a container. Again, getting back to that flexibility. And regardless of what type of connection those minions have, we're able to scale at speed. And you can see there, we clock this at 1.5 million commands per minute being executed across this entire infrastructure. And what was most important to this particular customer was the fact that they needed one control plane, one place where they could get the information, they could understand the state of their environment, and make the changes and updates that their infrastructure needed at the time they needed it. And SaltStack Enterprise was able to deliver on each one of these using and leveraging those three keys of flexibility, event-driven automation, and scalability. So with that, I want to turn it over to Vincent that can talk a little bit of kind of the high level of setting the stage for the demo that he's going to go through. And then we'll give you kind of an art of the possible demo that shows you some of these initial integration points that we're exploring between the two companies and give you a sense of where we're headed.
Vincent, I think you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, Vincent, you're still muted.
I'm on mute. Okay, there we go. That should have been a lot easier than it was. Okay, thanks everyone for joining here. So yeah, what I'm going to go over a little bit. Ultimately, what I'm going to do is show you a demo, but of some stuff that we put together. So that'll be fun. But what I also want to do is just go over a little bit of what some of the services are inside of Vrealize Automation, just in case you're not aware of them. Because during the demo, we are going to use some of these services here. So I just want to make sure you're a little aware of them. Then I'll go over what we're going to do inside the demo as well. So basically, inside Vrealize Automation is VMware's kind of traditionally flagship automation tool. And we have this in both the SaaS and on-prem format. And so if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see kind of some services up there: Service Broker, CodeStream, Cloud Assembly, and of course, SaltStack Config, which we'll talk about. And then below those services there, we have, the private cloud, the public cloud, and then our hybrid cloud. So what we've done with Vrealize Automation, is tried to make it to where, the object of the tool is to essentially be able to do the same things across these multiple clouds. So your workflows are similar, your processes are similar. So like Rajesh mentioned, make the clouds invisible, right? And so here's the services that kind of help us do that. One is Cloud Assembly, right? So Cloud Assembly is where we go set up the cloud. We bring in the clouds. We carve out resources inside of the cloud environments and allow you to consume them in an agnostic fashion if you want to. Also, there's a number of cloud native services built into the products to easily consume, like S3 or Azure SQL databases and things like that. We also do this in a DevOps fashion, meaning that we do our Cloud Assembly templates to declare the infrastructure, declare the environment in an IAC fashion in YAML, and those templates can be source controlled in Git. So you'll see that. I'll show you a little bit of how that looks inside the product here during the demo. Cloud Assembly is also where we do things around extensibility. So post-provision scripts, scripts that may run during provisioning time, or other events that may occur inside the system. So that's really kind of Cloud Assembly in a nutshell, is where we sort of create the cloud environments, carve out resources, give people access to those resources, and then you're off to going and doing your deployments and things like that. With Service Broker is really kind of what it says there, right? Our multi-cloud catalog. Essentially, this is where we can curate content into a catalog format. And so this has been actually a popular feature for our customers for a long time, even in our previous versions of the product, where the end goal could be, I want to present a catalog. I want to present sort of a vending machine, if you will, to folks that can go in and use with role-based access and policies and request applications and services and free IT from some tasks that they might have to do themselves. So that's the Service Broker piece. And we will use Service Broker actually in the demo to kick off the deployment. And that'll be kind of the first main thing that we do. And then there's CodeStream, right? So CodeStream is a service within the product that does our delivery pipelining and is really more around our strategy, or helps our customers with their strategies around CI/CD and integrating other DevOps tools in the environment into one platform. So we've called it the glue for a number of DevOps tools out there. So this is essentially where you can run pipelines, and then in the pipelines you run tasks. So we can chunk up tasks inside these pipelines, and so it helps you, troubleshoot quicker, deploy applications faster, and essentially give you more of a microservice sort of, DevOps sort of way of doing things. And then we integrate in with Jenkins and Docker and Kubernetes and some other things that we can do in order to help, bring in tools that you may be using today. And then Orchestrator. So this is essentially Vrealize Orchestrator that's inside of Vrealize Automation. So Vrealize Automation has had Orchestrator, and we use Orchestrator for a number of things. But what is Orchestrator? Orchestrator is really, like it says, workflow automation. So you build out these workflows that could have multiple elements in them, like actions, which could have scripts associated with them, or other workflows that you want to run, and a number of different things that you might do during a workflow, like decision making and stuff like that. Essentially what we use it for inside of Vrealize Automation, for the most part, is a couple of things. One, we have a methodology called XaaS, or anything as a service, where inside, like, let's say Service Broker, for instance, you can call Orchestrator workflows as a catalog item. So this has given our customers the ability to do things like, hey, I want to give another group access to fill out a form and maybe onboard a user, right, inside the organization. Or I want to, have IT, have a number of tasks that they want to do, like change passwords or do things inside of Active Directory, or hit the vCenter API and things like that through an Orchestrator workflow inside the catalog. We also use it in a couple of other ways, in Cloud Assembly as well, for like custom resources and day 2 actions and stuff like that. So it's a very powerful tool for us. And then also, last but not least, of course, is the SaltStack config service. So the SaltStack config service is what you will see in the UI of Vrealize Automation. So there's going to be a configuration management section, and that SaltStack config will be the section there where they'll have those capabilities. The primary use cases right away will be mostly around software deployment. So that's the gap we want to fill in terms of being able to do that from a configuration management standpoint, as well as just general configuration management of the environment is what we're looking to do initially.
Yeah, Vincent, just to add, so right now we are still discussing in what format to expose the UI or the config management capability. We think it's going to be part of the VMware Cloud templates, which you're showing right now. So I'll let you run with the demo. Just wanted to add that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, great. Thanks for the clarity. Yep, those kind of things are, of course, what we want to be clear on. Okay, wonderful. So what I'm going to do here is let me just kind of show you where I'm at. So I'm inside of Vrealize Automation today, and here's some of the services that I talked about on the right-hand side. There's Cloud Assembly, CodeStream, Orchestrator, and Service Broker. If we go into Cloud Assembly, right, this is where we have our cloud templates, and we have a number of templates here that we can go into, and these are YAML-based. Notice I'm source controlling them out of Get. So we have the capability to do source control. If I make a change to that Get file, it could sync. I'll sync back here, and I'll have a version of that particular cloud template. Let me just kind of click on one of the cloud templates here, just to kind of give you an example. So for the OpenCart one, I won't spend a ton of time on this because we need to make sure we get through the entire demo. But basically, one way that we can install the image or install the minion on the system is through the cloud config and installing it through the Bootstrap. So before I kind of jump into this, though, one thing I forgot to kind of mention was what I'm actually going to be demoing. So essentially, what we're going to demo here is the ability to deploy a virtual machine via Vrealize Automation. We're going to deploy the machine, then install the minion on the machine. And that's going to automatically register itself with SaltStack Enterprise. Now, one reason why we're doing the host name here as an input is because we want to automatically create an FQDN that will ultimately be the minion ID. Now, a minion, when you install the minion agent on the minion, it will, by default, make its ID or its minion ID the FQDN of the machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to trigger some things off of that ID. And so essentially the way that I name this will sort of trigger what we call a reactor. And the reactor will say, oh, I see a machine coming in with that name. I'm going to do some stuff. So we're going to automatically accept the key. Then we're going to automatically install some software on the machine through SaltStack. So SaltStack Enterprise will be responsible for actually doing the install of our application. Our application is going to be something called an OpenCart or MOAD OpenCart application. That's essentially a website that is a shopping cart app. Then once it installs that automatically based on our reactor system inside of Salt, then I'm going to initiate a hack against that website. So when I initiate the hack against the website, I'm going to use CodeStream for that. So CodeStream is going to kind of act like an outside hacker and replace a file. It's going to replace an index.php file with some different code. Then we'll see the hack. And then based on a reactor beacon system within SaltStack Enterprise, we're basically going to say, okay, if that file changes, we want to automatically replace it with our original index.php so we can get back to business and fix the hack. So that'll be kind of fun to show. So the end game is going to be deploy an application, a hacker comes in, hacks the website, and then the reactor beacon technology within SaltStack will restore it back to its original state. So initially what we're going to use Vrealize Automation for is the ability to just, or as part of the demo, is to deploy the virtual machine and then lay the minion agent down and auto-register it with Salt. So I'll go ahead and kick that deployment off. Actually, let me do that from Service Broker. So what we've done here is in Service Broker, I've got a catalog item called Deploy OpenCart Application. So the deployed OpenCart Salt demo basically is going to get the VM deployed, and then we'll see it in the SaltStack Enterprise server here in just a second. So I'll hit request over here. Now, what I can do from here is give it a deployment name. So the deployment name could be something like, let's OpenCart deploy or whatever I want to give it. There's just a visual name that will show up inside of Vrealize Automation. Then I'm going to give this a name. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call it OC Cool Application. And we can trigger off it. Now, I don't really need to put the OC Cool here because we've kind of created this environment where it's going to pre-populate that name automatically for us with that prefix. But I just want to kind of show you that just from the demo purposes, that's what's going to trigger it. So when this machine gets deployed and SaltStack sees it and it gets registered in there, then we'll be able to get it in here. So in just a minute, we're going to see that machine pop up over here, and then we'll be able to start the process. Now, that's going to take just a minute for it to deploy. Let me go back over here to my deployments and then see. Yeah, so here's the deployment kicking off right here. So it's going to take just a minute for this machine to deploy. And then what I'm doing, so in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what we're doing on the SaltStack side, so you can get kind of an idea of what we're doing on this end. So once this machine comes in, it's going to show up over here, and then it will automatically register the key. Now, how do we do that? How do we automatically get the application down? And then how do we do the fix? So if I go into Elements in the file server, you'll see over here, and I'm in SaltStack Enterprise, so I'll go over here to Elements, File Server, and then there's this base directory. In this base directory, basically, I've got a couple of folders that I'm going to be working out of. One is going to be this reactor section. So if I expand out reactors and I go to master, I've got a reactor.conf file. This reactor.conf file lives on the master, the salt master, and essentially is going to be what's going to look for things for me to trigger so I can start to automatically do some stuff within the system. So the first thing I'm doing is a salt off. That essentially is a built-in kind of code that will look for authentications from the minions. So as minions come in, it's going to say, okay, I want to do this whenever a minion comes into the system. Now you might be saying, well, where's this OC cool filter at? Well, it's in accept key.sls. So what I'm saying is when a machine comes in, authenticate, do what's in this file. The accept key.sls has my filtering code. So essentially we use a little Jinja to filter out. So if you notice that over here, I've got data ID starts with OC cool. In this environment, I've been doing some work with Windows, so I have another filter here too, because I'm going to run another, kick off some other orchestration if the VM has a FQDN of Windows. But in this case, we're looking at OC cool. Now, what happens is when the VM comes in with OC-cool as part of the name, which will ultimately be part of the minion ID, because remember the minion ID will automatically take the FQDN of the machine. That can be changed, but that's what it is by default. Then essentially, we're going to kick off this wheel.key.accept. So wheel is a built-in function in the system that allows to automatically accept a key. Okay.
Hey, Vincent, sorry to interrupt. Would you mind zooming in a little bit? Audience is having a little problem.
Oh, people can't see it. Yeah, maybe I could.
SSE will tolerate a couple of browser-based zoom-ins.
All right, so I won't do a bunch. All right, is that a little bit better? Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better. Okay, so let me know if that's still too small. Okay, so basically now I'm gonna look for things that start with OC-cool, and then we'll do our will key accept. Now, the other thing that I want to do is when the system comes in, accepting the key is not enough. I also wanted to automatically install my OpenCart application on the machine. So how are we going to do that? So when the machine comes in, I'm saying any machine, any minion that starts, I want to run this OpenCart.sls. So essentially, if you look at this directory too, right, it's salt reactors. It's because I'm under base. So all I need to do is say, here's reactors, and then here's some files that I want to use as sort of my orchestration files. So, or my reactor files. So basically, my OpenCart.sls is down here. So when a minion starts that has OC cool in the beginning of the name, then I'm going to run this runner state.orchestrate. Runner is a built-in function in Salt that will run salt run commands on the master, and essentially, because of that, we need to pass an argument. So the argument is going to be, where do I need to look to find the instructions on what to do once this particular orchestration starts? I'm going to look in my folder called OpenCart. So because I'm still in the base directory here, I can find my directory called OpenCart. In my directory called OpenCart, I have a few files and a couple of SLS files. Initially, what it's going to do is it's going to look at this init.sls file first. So init.sls is a special file inside of Salt that essentially is the file we look at when we call a directory. So when you're doing sort of targeting your jobs and things like that, and you just point it to a directory, it's going to initially look for that init.sls file. So the init.sls file is saying, we're going to do a salt state, meaning we are going to basically run a state file against this particular minion or minions. And here is the state file I'm interested in, opencart.oc install. So let's go to the oc install.sls file, and this is what's going to actually install the application down on the minion for us. Now, all this is orchestrated and happening in the background. Okay. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a user account, and then we're going to install some packages on the machine. So on the minion, we're going to install MySQL. These are basically prerequisites for the application that we need to deploy, which is our web application. So we need the MySQL server on there. We need Apache, a couple of other things to get installed. And then also one thing that we're installing is Python PyINotify. So this particular package is a prerequisite for the beacon. So far we've just been dealing with the reactor, but in order to identify that the hack has happened against the website, we're going to install a beacon down on the minion. And that beacon is going to look for changes constantly. And we're going to tell it what to look for, and I'll show you that here in just a second. The PyINotify is a prereq for that to actually work. Then what we're going to do is we're going to shell out, we're going to do a CMDB and just run a script. And this is located here, .sh. So notice this directory path, opencart files, and then our setup.sh. That's our source for the script. That's going to install the application. And then essentially we're going to deploy the beacon file. So the beacon file will go down into our minion at etc salt minion d directory. That's where it needs to go. And then it will deploy this beacons.conf. And the way that we are telling it to do that is through this file managed command. So file manage is a way to deploy files to minions and do some file management on the minion itself. And then here's the source of the file that we want to install down onto the minion, which is here under opencart files and then beacons.conf. So let's look at beacons.conf for just a second. Again, the beacon goes onto the minion and monitors for a change that we want it to monitor. In this particular case, we're looking for a file change. So we're looking for a change to the index.php, and we're saying if it's modified, then that beacon will kick off and our reactor will take that and do something. Okay, and I'll show you what we're going to do when that reactor hears from the beacon that that file is changed. So essentially, under iNotify, we'll look for changes to index.php, and then we'll run the reactor. Now what happens is, let's go back down to our reactor. Under reactor, we have this other command that says salt beacon, and then any minion that iNotifies us that this particular file changed, or that modified the beacon here. Then we're going to run this fix index_php.sls file. This will kick off the fix and get us back to where we were before. So this is how the beacon reactor system is working in our example. The beacon notices the change on the minion. The reactor on the master says, okay, here's what we're going to do about it. We're going to look at this fix index.php.sls. And then it's going to say, okay, I need to apply a state back to the system. And here's where I'm going to find out where the instructions are to do that. That'll be under the fix hack section. So remember the arguments again. So what I need to do is go up here to my fix hack directory. And in my fix hack directory, I have another init.sls. So remember, I don't need to specify the init.sls because that's that special file that will automatically run and get kicked off once we specify that directory. Under the init.sls, we're essentially going to use another file manage command to install the right index.php file back down onto the minion. So the name of the file that we want to modify on the minion is in this directory, var www opencart, and then index.php. The source of the file is right here under files index.php, which you can see here, right? So essentially we're just saying, take this file and throw it back down on the minion. Now we're doing a little sleep command here because it would happen so fast that after the hack, the fix would happen so fast that we wouldn't really see it. We wouldn't see the hack really occur unless I was very, very good at my timing. So, or it'd be so quick, it would be harder to talk about it. So the hack will happen, we'll wait 20 seconds, and then we'll do the fix automatically through the beacon reactor system. Okay, so let's go back to minions and see if my OC cool application is there, and there it is right here. So it's present, so our key was registered, and that's good. So I'm going to scroll down, look at the IP address of the machine, and we'll look over here as well at Service Broker and see that here's the machine that got deployed from my OC deployment that I just did, and essentially here's the IP address. So there's that 150, 154. And then over here, we can see it's the 150, 154. So I just want to make sure I'm on the right system as well, just in case. And let me also get rid of my bookmarks so they're not distracting. Okay, so we'll go paste and go, and then our Moad shopping cart should be installed. Now let me go back real quick because it took me a little while to explain that. So our Moad shopping cart is installed now on the minion because I went to its IP address and there it pops up. But essentially what happened when that got deployed is it went through this job. So it's running through our state SLS, it did the orchestration, and then the state job ran, okay? So we can see that essentially the job runs, and then we should be good at that point. And that's why our Moad Superstore cart application is there. Okay, so now our website is up and running. Let me jump over into CodeStream, and I'm going to act like the hacker, okay? So CodeStream is aware of this machine. It's aware of the minion that got deployed. So I'm going to have to click on the right execution over here so I get the right machine. And then it's going to essentially SSH into that minion, and it's going to, let me just make sure this is the right one. Yeah, that's it. It's going to essentially SSH into the minion and then write to that index.php file and hack it. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to approve it, so it just kicks off the hack. So that looks like it went off, approved successfully. So let's go back to our Moad Super Electronic Store application, and just here in a second, we should see that we got hacked, right? So our seasonal Happy Halloween hack occurred, and we just got hacked here. So, but again, that's why we did the sleep timer, because otherwise it would have just gone back so quick you wouldn't have been able to have fun with our little hacking graphics here. So what will happen here within that about that 20-second time frame is it will get it back to its original state, and then we're back into business, and our customers can continue to buy our products off of our website. So we should be back now. Yep. So there's our application, Moad Electronic Superstore application, and we're back in business. So let me show you one quick thing before I kind of wrap this up, though. Like what kind of happened, or you know, what to look for inside of SaltStack when you see that the beacon reactor system happened or successfully got this back. And because I'm just focusing on SaltStack Enterprise, if we go into activity, there probably shouldn't be. Yeah, so here it is. So it's applying that state back. And essentially that just means that we're going back and we're doing that fix hack that I showed you earlier. So if we look down here, we can see that the SLS from the fix hack occurred. And essentially that's what got us back up and running beyond the hack that occurred. So that was basically from the Vra deploying the minion, auto registering the key with SaltStack Enterprise, auto deploying our application onto the system. I was acting as a hacker through CodeStream, coming in and making modifying our website. The reactor beacon system saw that change and automatically laid down the index.php file that got us back to our original state. So hopefully that was a helpful demo to see some of the things that you can do between the two products, and also hopefully a fun way to see how the two systems can work together. Were there any questions in the chat on any of that? On any of what I showed?
No, I think we have been answering some questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I think nothing in particular. You know, definitely to Vincent's point, we've made the observation in some of our instructor-led trainings that you know, the service watching beacon will tend to restart a service faster than a state intended to break it can actually even complete. And so, you know, very much to that same extent, we've learned to implement sleep timers for training purposes and for demonstration purposes, just because the state system or the beacon reactor system actually reacts so quickly to these things that we often fail to note those under normal operating circumstances. And so even we have to kind of slow things down in a lot of cases just to be able to demonstrate.
Yeah, that's exactly why we had to do that. Yeah, for sure.
So one comment I'll make, kind of address what I think is the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people are looking at a session with two product managers from VMware and saying, well, where's the roadmap? And you know, what I want to just call people's attention to is the fact that we are 15 days post-acquisition. And there are a lot of great discussions going on about how this integration takes place. And there will be a lot of information that comes out over the coming months to make sure that you as our customers understand how these integrations are taking place, where these new features are going to show up, and how we'll make sure that your experience continues to be seamless, whether you're kind of a traditional SaltStack Enterprise customer or a traditional VMware customer. And in the end, you're actually seeing a lot of value and opportunity from this. I can tell you from my experience just in those 15 days, the outreach and the excitement from the VMware side is awesome, right? There's just so many places for SaltStack to be plugged in and for value to be driven. And from a SaltStack kind of traditional side, there's so many great processes and ways for us to, speed up and automate and improve our basic practices that will just enhance the SaltStack experience for those that are wanting to stay on the SaltStack side. There will be a benefit, I think, across the board. And so, I know that everybody wants to see the roadmap, but we're still under a lot of discussions with that. And as soon as those move from kind of a plan of record to a solidified roadmap, we'll be sure to make sure to get that information out, have discussions with customers as wanted, and put them out through other channels as possible.
Yep, that's true, Alex. So thanks for summarizing that. SaltStack would still be available to the customers as a standalone product if you are a VRA customer. So, while we determine this roadmap and explore all the opportunities that SaltStack offers.
All right, looking quick to see if there's any other questions.
No, I think we got all the questions, and I appreciate everybody's participation in asking questions, some really good ones, and hopefully you got the answers.
All right. With that, I guess we'll end a minute early, right? All right, Patrick?
Absolutely. I do encourage you guys, just because we have a couple of minutes left. This is the last session, but the conference itself is certainly not over yet. Please feel free to take the time to explore any of the booths, or even do some of the networking opportunities, meeting other attendees and things like that. We definitely all miss a lot of the live format of being able to just chat with people in the hallway. So do take the opportunity to do things of that nature, and explore the swag booth and avail yourself to the things that we are trying to make available to you today. The marketing team definitely is still trying to get all of that Salt swag out to you guys, because we definitely like seeing all the t-shirts and hats and all those things. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your attendance. And, by all means, if there are any other questions, you can certainly surface those through the platform or to anybody in direct messages. We'll try to make sure that those get addressed.
Great. Thank you
Thanks,
for
guys.
attending.
Have a good one.